Mr. Chairman. For 35 years, Congress has wrestled with how to deal with coal ash, an unavoidable byproduct of burning coal. Every day, coal ash is produced in more than 500 coal-fired plants located in 49 states, spread across 207 congressional districts. Each one of those dots represents where every day in America coal ash is being produced. This issue is not a state issue. This is a national issue that needs to be addressed. Over 140 million tons of coal ash are produced annually in each one of those red dots. I recently received a letter of support from the pulp and paper industry, which recycles fly ash and employs nearly 900,000 people in 47 states. Their comment? They want to see this bill passed because, quote, the EPA's proposed regulations provides a complicated approach to enforcing the regulation, and this bill provides clarity and certainty. Now, last year, in December, the EPA issued its regulation. Indeed, they did, on fly ash. And to its credit, the EPA addressed one of the more immediate concerns and opted, however, just for now, to regulate coal ash as a non-hazardous waste. So the question legitimately needs to be raised. It has been. Why is this legislation needed? Two issues. First, the non-hazardous designation is not permanent. And secondly, the only oversight mechanism is the rule in lawsuits. Let's be more specific. The non-hazardous designation is merely applicable as long as this rule is not modified. Even in the preamble, the EPA indicates they may reverse their decision and ultimately regulate fly ash as a hazardous material. More specifically from the statute, or the rule, it says, quote, the EPA is deferring its final decision because of regulatory uncertainties that cannot be resolved at this time. This uncertainty could be devastating to recyclers. The science is settled on fly ash, and it should trump political and ideological interference. Are we living in a nation of rules and regulation, or are we living in a nation of laws? This bill ensures that the EPA will not be able to retroactively reverse its original decision. But secondly, and equally and maybe more so important, is the rule of this omission of specificity and the lack of state or federal oversight of coal ash disposal. And remember what I just said, the lack of state or federal oversight that's provided in the rule. The way the rule is currently written, oversight will occur only through lawsuits, not through regulators. The bill, however, addresses the regulatory uncertainty by guaranteeing that every state will have a coal ash permit program in concert with the EPA, but with state oversight. That every program will meet the standards set forth under the proposed EPA rule. Nothing in the rule was omitted in the legislation. Rather, the bill modifies the rule to allow states the flexibility to implement an adequate, sufficient, and successful coal ash permit program. It simply ensures that the lawsuits are not the only regulatory component. Let me give you an example of how the language within the rule could be a problem. The rule states that, quote, the owner or operator of a CCR unit must install a sufficient number of wells to yield groundwater samples. Mr. Chairman, who defines what sufficient is? One utility in one state may say 10 wells. In another state, it may be 20 or 30. Under this rule, the decision will be handled by a federal judge rather than a state environmental agency. That's what we've corrected with this bill. This is not the fly ash bill from 30 years ago. We have worked with the EPA in developing this legislation. Perhaps, Mr. Chairman, the administration hasn't read the bill. Because the bill, one, codifies the rule. Doesn't eliminate anything, it codifies the rule. And secondly, it removes the uncertainty with a regulatory designation. 3, it enhances oversight. And fourthly, it requires every state to have a coal ash program.
Gentleman is recognized for an additional minute.
But in so doing and providing for the coal ash program, we finally will have a national system for oversight of dams. Think about that. We haven't had that up to this point. That's what caused the problem in the first place, was lack of dam safety. Secondly, we're going to have enhanced water quality. Thirdly, we're going to have improved environmental considerations. This rule will go into effect on October 19th of this year. Without this legislative action, regulatory uncertainty will swirl around the coal ash is going to continue, as it has for 35 years. It's imperative we pass this bill today and continue to move forward. The clock is ticking, and the time is now to finally put this issue behind us. I encourage all of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, put this issue to rest. We've come to a compromise with the EPA. The administration needs to come on board finally. I yield back my time. Thank you.